Hello, welcome back. Today I'd like to introduce my system for putting and controlling power, controlling distance. A little bit of a background on that and me. I'm 65 years old. Back in the day when I was 40 years old, I wanted to become a PGA professional golfer, but for the senior tour. I was 40 years old and the senior tour would be at 50, 10 years, so that's a lot of time. I figured it was doable because there was a young lady at the time, Michelle Wee. She was 12 years old and she was playing in the Sony Open. And I thought, well, heck, if a girl could learn to play golf at the professional level at age 12, figuring she probably started when she was maybe 4, well, that's 8 years, so maybe I could do it in 10 years. So I spent a lot of time on it, 6 years. But in that time, I remember one particular day. I was on the practice green. I was trying to learn how to putt, and I've been playing golf for a long time. I started golfing when I was 10, so that's 30 years worth of golf. And it was a simple putt, a 10-footer, and I went ahead and I hit it, and the ball went 17 feet. I thought, 17 feet? That's 7 feet too long. That's 70% too long. How could I possibly do something like that? So I thought, okay, I've got something wrong here. I need to fix it if I'm going to be a professional golfer. So I thought, how far can I possibly hit a putt? You know, it was just a 10-incher, like I said, this much power. I says, okay, go ahead, use that same stroke, that 10-inch stroke, but see how far you can hit it. All right. 10 inches, and whammo. I was able to hit the ball 70 feet. Actually, it probably went further than 70 feet if I'd worked on it. But what that showed me is that there's an awful lot of potential even in a little tiny swing like that. So a person's got to be in control of your power, and it's got to be pretty precise, especially as the greens get faster. So I went back to a book, and the person stressed tempo. And I thought, well, I never really gave that much thought before, but okay, tempo. Let's look into it. Tempo. My son, he plays a violin, and he's got this thing called a metronome. It makes a noise, you know, slow, and it can go faster, really like that. So it's kind of a timing thing, but that's what you need in your putting swing, is tempo. My tempo, it kind of looks like this. Okay? And then what I do is I add something into that. It's how much backstroke am I taking. So, for example, this is 5 inches. This is 10 inches. This is 20 inches. And finally, this is like 30 inches. Each one of those strokes produces a roll that'll go pretty much close to the same distance on a level surface. As the surface changes, of course, things are going to affect it. I'll get into that later on, how the surface affects things, the uphills, the downhills especially, and even a bit about how the side hill will affect things. So bear with me and we'll see what we can learn. All right, so this controlling power and using a distance of backstroke to do that, the way I taught myself was to use a ruler. Here I've got a yardstick, I've got a tape measure, and then here's probably even a better thing because it's very portable and lightweight. Put it in your golf bag, but it's a piece of string with a knot at 5 inches, 10 inches, 15 inches, and 20 inches, like that. So what I do to practice it is I put my putter down at the 0 mark on the yardstick, and I take it back 5 inches, 5 inches, 5 inches. And then I think about it with my tempo. My tempo's like tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. So tick tock, tick tock. And then the 10-inch one, tick tock, tick tock. and then goes on. 15 inches, tick tock, tick tock, 20 inches, tick tock. And that works pretty good all the way up to 20 inches, because in that 0 to 20 inch range, the putter doesn't get very far off the ground. However, once you start going further than 20 inches, 25 inches, 30 inches, there gets to be a gravity component in, where gravity helps you to accelerate the putter. So you got to be a little bit more careful as you get past the 20 inch point. But as you're gonna learn in the next little bit here, 20 inches of stroke is pretty much going to cover your range on a modern golf green. Alright, I got out the old paper and pencil here, and what I've found on my typical green, when it's well maintained and cut, if I make a 10-inch stroke and it happens to be a level green or the level portion of a green, I find that that ball will roll 15 feet. If it's like a downhill putt, not really severe, just downhill, and I make that same 10-inch stroke, I find the ball goes 20 feet. Then if there's more slope to it, 30 feet. If there's a lot of slope, probably the most, it'll roll 40 feet. So for a 10-inch stroke, it can possibly go as far as 40 feet. Now, there's also uphill putts out there, and that 10-inch stroke on kind of the usual uphill goes 10 feet. The most severe I've seen for an uphill is the 10-inch stroke will go 7.5 feet. So you can see this kind of works out into factors. On a level, it's 1.5 times the distance of the stroke. So 15 feet is 1.5 times 10. For the 20-foot downhiller, that's a 2 times. For the 30, that's a 3 times. And for the worst case one, the 40, that's a 4 times. All that's happening for the same 10-inch stroke. So it becomes really kind of straightforward to determine how much stroke you're going to use based on how much hill or uphill or downhill you're looking at. So looking at this logically, one can tell that if I do have that 4 times downhiller, it's going to be really sensitive to the amount of stroke that I use. So for example, if I miss my stroke and I only use 8 inches of it instead of 10, the ball's going to roll 32 feet. So I come in 8 feet short of my mark. That's a pretty big miss. However, if I have just the 1 times uphill putt, the 10-footer, and I miss my stroke by 2 inches, I make that same 8-incher, the ball's going to roll 8 feet, and I've only missed it by 2. So that's going to be a pretty easy tap-in. So from this, we can easily tell that downhill putts are the ones we got to watch out for. The uphill ones, not so much. So if we've got a system that allows us to create these distances with a fair degree of confidence, you can go into the putt and not really be worried too much about whether you're going to hit the right distance or not, and then just kind of concern yourself with, am I picking the right line or not? And then with that confidence in you, I think you'll make better putts. All right, thank you for watching today's video. Just a little recap before we go. The thing I stressed the most was developing a nice tick-tock kind of stroke, something that's got a tempo that's going to be always the same, so that you can match that up with length of backswing in order to control how much power you're putting into a putt. I went over the differences between an uphill putt and a downhill putt. Don't sweat those uphillers or those level ones too much, but be really careful on the downhillers. That's where the trouble starts. So try to leave that ball below the hole, and I hope to see you out on the course. In the next video, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to measure those putts, and then putts that break to the right, break to the left, and even that one that's got the double breaker. So take care and see you then.